Abbiamo visto come le
Guarda,
banche stiano ridisegnando i propri modelli di business. Dietro questa evoluzione però ci sono delle trasformazioni infrastrutturali. A raccontarci questa prospettiva il prossimo ospite, Brian Ellis, Head of Wealth Services for Europe di State Street. You are welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So my name is Brian Ellis. I'm responsible for wealth services at State Street. And I wanted to take this moment to share with you some of the themes and things that we're working on at State Street and how we think about wealth services. I'm going to break it down into three categories. The first is to cover over the metrics of the addressable market, how we view the market at State Street. Then I want to move on to the second area, which is talking about the challenges that the wealth management industry we feel is grappling with. And then the third is to talk about how we at State Street are mobilizing to start to address some of these challenges and contribute to proposing solutions. So if I get this right. Here we go. Okay, this slide I wanted to share with you talks about the overall addressable market. So at the end of 24, we were looking at something in the order of $28 trillion worth of assets across the whole continent, broken down by each of the countries and each of the pillars that you can see. And what's really interesting for me and for State Street, what we've looked at here, is the percentage. So the light grey is the percentage of the wealth assets that are less than $1 million. And so we feel, and I think many of you do as well, is that the dark colours at the top, those are the large sums of money, where a lot of those clients are well supported and there are services and support that is made available. But as you go from the dark colours down through to the light colours, there's less and less support. But the demand is there. There are drivers of wealth that we are seeing. Increasingly, that number of 28 trillion is, as we all know, is going to grow. It's going to grow significantly over the next few years. And as it grows, there are certain factors that are going to develop. One is the intergenerational transfer of wealth. We're seeing the baby boomers are going to start transferring their wealth to the next generation, and that number is only going to get bigger, and that's going to percolate all the way through all those segments. The other aspect that we're seeing is that as it percolates and the lighter colors, they have access to more and more wealth, there is a drive for more personalization. These investors are looking for solutions that are specific to them. And they are a segment of the population that has not been able to access the same products and solutions that the ultra high net worth. But the demand is there, and you in the room are starting to move, I would argue, in the direction of providing services and solutions to these segments. The other area is that there's, and I don't speak Italian, but I can pick up the terms like private assets and family offices, and all these terms are coming through, and I'm hearing, and there's no surprise in the analysis that we've done that increasing demand for private markets is something that we're seeing. And in Italy, when I speak to clients in Italy, they're increasingly have got the capability to provide that and make it available to their clients. I would argue more so in some of the other jurisdictions that I'm responsible for. I did hear AI mentioned a couple of times, and again, we're seeing that in our analysis, and is increasingly important in order to allow solutions and services to be provided to the section where it's in the 60s. You know, the ability to deliver services in a much more cost-effective way is going to be predicated on AI and technology, and so that is absolutely clear. So I just wanted with this slide to set the scene in terms of how State Street considers the European wealth market in terms of the addressable market that is out there. Okay, so the next part, I talked about three areas. This is the second, where I wanted to cover off what we're seeing as in terms of the pain points. What is the wealth management industry dealing with, what it's trying to develop its areas of expertise? The first, and I mentioned at the beginning, is the personalization of investors. So this democratization, this is providing services that once were only available to the most wealthy. And this is in terms of providing portfolios with direct investments that can be indexed directly. These are the types of things that we are seeing increasingly. Individuals that have less than $1 million are looking, or €1 million, are looking for these personalized services, these single managed accounts. The other area is also, we're also seeing the need to, although provide those services at an individual portfolio level, there is also the ability to provide strategic allocation across all of it and then drill down and make it very specific to the individual. So that first pillar is talking about personalization of investment and the fact there's increasing demand. The next thing is that population that is starting to gather assets, grow assets, and not the baby boomers, but the next generations coming through. And some of them are digitally native. They've grown up with mobile phones and iPads and are very comfortable with that type of technology. And they're expecting to have access in the palm of their hand, access to their portfolios, to the activity that's going on in their portfolio, being able to access information about their portfolio. They want that in the palm of their hand. They want it real time. And they want it so that as things change constantly through the day, they have that. And that digital experience is going to require a new breed of technology provider. And we've seen in a lot of places it's fintechs that have come in and stepped up to try and create that capability. But we're seeing more and more that these digital savvy investors are looking for more just than a fintech, but a whole solution. But anyway, that's the second theme that I wanted to call out. The next one is for wealth managers is a scalable operating model. So they're looking for a model that as they grow their client base, and we at State Street, just like you, are seeing all the metrics that this is an industry that is growing at pace. It's outstripping the other segments of the financial industry. And as you add more customers to the wealth managers, adds more customers to their organization and tries to deliver the services, it's patchy, it's a struggle. The experience of the end investor is impacted because wealth managers, in a lot of cases, not all, have legacy systems, they're fragmented, and it becomes increasingly difficult to deliver a unified single solution that's digital and that's efficient and at a lower cost. So that's another challenge that we're seeing the wealth industry struggle with. The fourth is the rise of private investments. So again, we're all very familiar with delivering public market assets, but increasingly investors want to be able to access the public markets in the same way as their private markets. They want it to be seamless. Wealth managers want the technology to be available to reduce the complexity of delivering private markets and public markets together. So that's only going to increase, and as I could pick up in the discussions earlier today, that is something that's been prevalent in the conversations. And the final piece that we're seeing is the investment management community. I think it's fair to say struggling, trying to stay relevant to the end investor. Increasingly, they're becoming disintermediated by the wealth industry, and they're finding new ways to become relevant to the end investor and looking for ways to partner with platforms to access distribution. So that was the second part, talking about the pain points. In the first part, I talked about the addressable market. I talked about how a lot of the wealth is concentrated in this less than $1 million, this growing mass affluent, and they're increasingly looking for personalized assets. So on the final slide, I wanted to give you a sense of how State Street is mobilizing to address these challenges that wealth managers are struggling with, and how we feel that we are bringing together a set of solutions, some of which we have today, but others which we have invested in, and how we're bringing them together to create a single service solution for wealth managers that is front to back and captures at the front end the capability to provide investment management services. So the manufacturing, we can provide that capability in implementing model portfolios. But we recognize that a lot of wealth managers see that as their particular area of expertise. So there are other areas where we can help them, which is in the platform space. Not sure how many of you are familiar with State Street, but we wholly own a subsidiary called Charles River Wealth. And Charles River Wealth has components that were specifically designed for wealth managers. It has components that allows advisors to run money, to run discretionary managed portfolios. We have that ability. It has trade order management systems. It has portfolio construction systems. So you can be a wealth manager at the very beginning, meeting with your clients, building model portfolios, executing them. And then those transactions are captured seamlessly through our investment management account platform, which in Italy has something in the order of about $300 billion worth of assets sitting on that platform. So we're currently investing to develop that system and make it seamlessly front to back, capturing instructions at the beginning and processing it all the way. Because I talked about the fact that a lot of the systems out there that we're seeing are fragmented, they're legacy, they're approaching end of life, and we're looking to provide an alternative to the wealth management industry in this group of clients. So I think I'm slightly over time, so I'm going to bring it to a close there. But thank you very much for your time. If there's any questions, please send them through to the organisers and I'll pick them up. I'd love to respond to you directly, and hopefully that was of some interest and helpful. Thank you.